And we're rolling. All right, welcome to Soliant.cloud's presentation here at AutoEnter. My name is Bill Heiser. I'm the director of the AWS practice here at Soliant. You all may know a little bit about us, but for those who do not, we are a Claris Platinum partner and have been for many, many years. You might recognize a lot of names from our team, such as Wim Decor, Mike Duncan, and you've probably seen a number of presentations or read a lot of different blog posts. But we've been around FileMaker a long time, and we've been adding a lot of new services to help support that. And I'd like to talk about one of them today. It is a product from our Soliant.cloud managed services hosting product for the FileMaker platform. A little bit about us and why we built this thing up to begin with. At the end of the day, it kind of came out of necessity as we looked at various different providers out there that had hosting services. And to be very honest, it just didn't quite meet the needs that we need for really the type of enterprise functionality that we want. With cloud on the horizon back a number of years ago, it became very, very clear that having a managed services offering for, in addition to the other services we provide there for the FileMaker platform, and dovetail those together, we could really bring something special to the community. And we've been up and running now for about 5 years, and we've had some really great success, and I think we solved a lot of the key problems. A little bit about how our journey we got here is we started off as an AWS Select partner and then moved through the registered partner and then the Select partner. And we've just recently, the last couple of years, become an AWS Advanced Tier Services partner. It's pretty significant and quite a bit of a workload. We've had to go through a lot of things to get there, but it has allowed us to kind of build upon what we do and also able to deliver some unique solutions and the way that we do things, not only for the FileMaker platform, but the other platforms and the other services that we try to provide along with it. So part of that, we've got a number of designations in CloudFormations, Immersion Day. We've got a whole bunch of certifications now. We've got a number of professional architects, a number of networking specialists, associate architects, and cloud practitioners. And that has helped us build quite an impact on our relationship with AWS and what we bring to that. One of the special things that I like to point out is our Partner Solution Provider program. We are a part of that, and that is a special designation that has allowed us to structure and get support in ways, take advantage of cost savings, and be a part of a number of programs to learn about new technologies, as well as how to best implement them under what AWS calls their well-architected framework. And being a part of that and being a part of the CloudFormation delivery program allows us to take and make a lot of things that you might do in one method or another and do them in this well-architected framework way. CloudFormations is a great one because it's essentially infrastructure as code. So everything that we put in place and orchestrate for our clients are done in such a way that we use code to build that. That reduces human error. It increases consistency. It's easier to support. It's easier to scale. It's easier to maintain. It's easy to monitor. And we have built our hosting service, and specifically the platform service, to take advantage of that. Last couple of years, we won some really amazing awards from North America Rising Star Award for AWS for 2021, as well as a prospecting lead winner for 2021. We've had some significant growth. We're averaging about 67% growth year over year since 2016. We have done a number of large implementations. We just did one for a very large university out on the East Coast with taking over their entire FileMaker infrastructure and moving it into Soliant.cloud, and allow us to deliver all the goodness of that, as well as some integration points and special security requirements they have. We're about ready to go through a full audit with them for what they call level 4 security data. And we'll be using our third-party audit that we do every year to make sure that we're meeting those requirements, both from infrastructure as well as the processes that we do and how we handle data. So we're pretty serious about our implementation of Soliant.cloud, and especially for the FileMaker platform. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. The Soliant.cloud FileMaker hosting platform. So Soliant.cloud is our MSP. We have a product inside of that called FileMaker Hosting, and we'll be putting a whole lot more of detail around what I'm going to show you now at the Expo time slots. So I'm going to show you a number of things to give you some general idea, whet your appetite, if you will, about some of the things that we're doing that might be of interest to you, and then go to the booth and during the Expo times, and we'll have them listed out there what times we're going to be talking about those in a little bit more detail. So if we use technical people who like to get under the covers, it'll be a really good session for you to kind of understand what's going on. All right, so an overview of some things that we do that really make a big difference in Soliant.cloud, specifically the FileMaker hosting platform, is I mentioned the notion of infrastructure as code. Now, when you come on board with us, it's much more than just throwing a box up there, configuring it, and manually going through that. All of our orchestrations are done through CloudFormations. And again, we're a CloudFormations delivery designation. So we've gone through the testing and we've gone through how you do that. What that means to you is that everything that we do is handled in a very consistent, very supportable, very repeatable. It massively reduces troubleshooting time. It massively increases uptime. We don't have to worry about things being in different configurations. We can automate a lot of processes. It's one thing if, let's say, your environment maybe has 5 or 6 servers, or maybe even up as 50 or 75 of them. But we've done thousands now of implementations and orchestrations. And, we currently are supporting, 350 or so different implementations that are running right now with a variety of different things. And in order to maintain that level with all of that automation and all of the watching that we have to do and monitoring and updating and making sure that things run, you have to have some processes and code as infrastructure in place to support that. I mean, just one good example is we run about 7,000 jobs per day that are doing various things, from looking at an instance, checking how it's operating, what kind of, when do we capture backups for that thing? When do we apply patches? So there's a lot going on a daily basis. And at that kind of scale to support our enterprise clients, it's really important to have that. We've taken a lot of that functionality. We've put into something we call the Soliant.cloud client portal. And at the end of the day, I'm going to show you just a few things on that. But at the end of the day, what that is designed to do is make it for our clients, and specifically for you as developers, have the ability to do a lot of self-serve. There's nothing worse than having to log a call to a help desk, get somebody to answer your question, explain to them what's going on, what you're trying to do, have them go through and do manual intervention, both in the cloud interface, say in our case, AWS, or having to make some configuration changes. A lot of stuff is available to you through our portal, and we are exposing more and more of that every day. We expand on a lot of the cloud services as part of that too. So if you need integrations in with, say, AWS S3 or any of the AWS services, as well as things that you might have on-prem, say perhaps you have a SQL server, or maybe you've got a web service that you've got to talk to that's internal, or even in a third party, we have the ability, based on our orchestration of our structure, to be able to hook those things and integrate them very easily with you. And I think you'll see some interesting capabilities that really reduce the need for like extra plugins or extra connectivity and having to specialize configure everything, especially keep it consistent and running properly. We're available globally, anywhere that AWS operates, whether that be certain regions right now, or down the road as they open up these new local zones, which give you even closer access to them. We're capable and we're architected in such a way that we can just bring those servers online. Everything from how we price, how we invoice for that, how we recognize those, how we run services in those, and we architect it in such a way that those services that you use are specifically for you to control blast radius, to keep everything secure. And when we build up those organizations, again, those cloud formations coming into play to build consistent, secure, reliable, supportable infrastructure and orchestration of those accounts. So let's talk a little bit about the FileMaker hosting component that's going to live on top of all of that framework. And there's a few things I want to point out to you. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our portal and how those features work. But one of the key ones is backups. I can't even tell you how many years I've been dealing with backup problems. How long does it take and how big is the file? You start getting into a 500 gigabyte file, quite honestly, even more than 50 or 60 gigs. We have clients that have terabytes of databases. Now, it's be the databases and container data. But you've got to approach things significantly different if you're dealing with that. So we have leveraged for backups to just kind of get away from the standard methodology and move to something that leverages something in AWS called snapshots. Now, a lot of people use snapshots. We've seen different technologies, but we implement it in a very different way, starting from the very beginning of how we orchestrate our entire server instantiation. A lot of details here, but at the end of it, we are architected in such a way that we can take a snapshot and we can copy all of the files, and it takes milliseconds. You not even see it pause, regardless if it's 1 megabyte or a 500 gigabyte set of solutions. It will not take any time to do that. We snapshot that. When the next snapshot occurs, it will take a delta of that. So again, very quick. But in addition to that, it also saves significant on cost because all snapshots are stored in S3, which is the lowest form of storage cost. In addition to that, we only have to make the deltas, those changes. Now, when it comes time to deal with a backup is where we really shine. The first piece of it is you have access to get to any of those previously stored snapbacks at any point in time. You can simply go to your portal and you can select that. And I'll give you a quick preview of that, and there'll be a lot more detail in the expo. But at the end of the day, I can access that over a secure FTP connection. And I can move files around and I can bring them down to me and I can make whatever changes, the ones I need on the server and the ones that I have locally, and I can move stuff back and forth. In addition to that, though, let's take example our 500 gigabyte solution. If your vendor that you're using is basically making copies of your files somewhere and you have to restore those, you could be hours just copying from one volume to another. Now there's nuances to that, but at the end of the day, it can take a significant amount of time. Because of how we stand up the instance and how it's architected, we have the ability to help you restore in minutes. We can take a 1 megabyte file or a 500 gigabyte solution, and we can put those together and we can restore to that in a matter of minutes. So in some cases it's self-service, some cases we can get involved, but at the end of the day, your backups are extraordinarily safe for you. They are low cost and they allow you to restore in multiple different ways depending on what your specifics are at the time. So we're really proud of it. It's great. And I think that if you are in a situation where you've got a large amount of data, that even better, it's going to work for you. So let's just take a peek over at our portal real quick. And I'm just going to run through a couple of key things that I want to point out. All right. So, here it is where you have the ability to log in. If you have multiple instances that are in our environment, you're going to be able to see them here and you'll be able to do various things. There's a nice onboarding capability. You can look at invoices. Here's an interesting view of snapbacks. What I have here is the capability to look at all of those snapbacks that we have taken. I can set all kinds of preservation on them to store them for as long as I want. I can rename them. I can do some things. So it gives you a nice way to catalog and do a lot with your snapbacks. A great way that we see it used a lot of times is a developer needs to perform a snapback. Give me a copy before I start working on it. And then they want to set the preservation flag. I can simply come in here. I can tell it what name I want. I can click the switch to preserve it and they're ready to go. It saves and it's never changed from the archive. I can also mount that snapback onto that instance, which will then give me an FTP access to get to that. And it's pretty simple. I simply just click the button. It shows up as an FTP. I get an email and I can access those things. We can access snapbacks. You see this one's set to run every hour. We have an advanced or what we call the premium tier of snapbacks that does it every 15 minutes. Again, depending on your specific solution, you may want to have more than one an hour. And the beauty in this is we keep the last 24 hours all the time. And you can see this one goes back and we go back a number of days where we keep 7 days worth of copies and then we keep 3 weeks and then we keep another. So we can have a very long amount of them and you have access to them as well as it does it for a very, very low cost. I can't even imagine how much dollars it would cost you to store this 96 times on a volume. It would be ridiculously expensive. So this is a very, very nice feature for you and gives you the ability to get to the stuff and manage it. On top of that, if I go over to the Manage tab, I have the ability to kind of see what's going on with my licensing. It'll let you know when there's an upgrade available. We handle a lot of controls where we push updates to you. We vet those updates out. We can make it so that you can choose when you'd like for those updates to occur from both FileMaker application versions as well as updating things like weekly maintenance or Windows patches and things like that. You can restart the instance. One of the things I like to point out here is that when we interface with some of these in the back end, we're relying on some infrastructure that runs in AWS that can talk to these instances. And even in cases where they're not responding properly, we can make calls to sort of override that and kind of work behind the scenes. Here's a great example of another capability that you have is our auto-scaling web workers. And looking back over to here, I'm going to look at this particular instance and I can see that right now that this particular instance is running our autoscaling web worker. So you might ask, what is this thing and what does it do? Well, the problem that we're trying to solve here is that autoscaling, first of all, those of you not familiar with WebDirect, you have the ability to run what are called web workers. So in addition to your primary or master server, you can have these worker machines. And the purpose in them is to offload the work from the master machine so that you can service the individual requests of these. Now you can have up to 5 of them running. And we've seen different implementations. And you can see in this case that we've got 3 of them online right now. That's what the web worker does. It will bring up and down an individual worker based on some load metrics that we load into place. What does that mean to you? Well, it means this. I don't have to have a server running if I'm not using it. And when I do need it, it will fire up. What that means to you from a cost perspective is a massive reduction. Because if I were to have all 5 of these running all the time, that would have to run for the entire month, 744 hours times 5 machines. In most cases, a lot of times WebDirect, you have a spike period that you need to run, and then you may have a couple of different spikes during the day. And this is a great way to leverage FileMaker's WebDirect capabilities, scale up when you need and scale down when you don't need. By way of example, we have a particular client with AT&T that was running 5 of them all the time. That, along with all the other services, they were running about $2,600, $2,700 a month. We implemented this, and they are now servicing the exact same number of clients. And actually, that increase has gone up a little bit since then, and they're down in the $900 range now. So it's a great way to save some money and get the capabilities of FileMaker. It's fully automated and very, very scalable, and quite honestly, extraordinarily cheap. It's almost easier to just subscribe to this, and when you need it, it comes, than it is to put one out there. So you've got a lot of capabilities in our cloud portal, and we've built a lot of structure around how we implement it, as well as the kind of capabilities that we provide. So they're good for you, good for your client, and we do it in such a way that there's a whole bunch of capabilities that are available just basically through our portal. So one last thing I want to talk a little bit about is Sidecar. So we're going to again have another expo on this, but at the end of the day, a sidecar is this. Sidecar is a name for a family of microservices. And at the end of the day, those microservices are built on a serverless architecture that we orchestrate for you when you decide you want to use one of those sidecars. So what it does is spins up this serverless architecture that only runs when you need it to make a call to it. And it creates, in cases, endpoints that you can call. Those endpoints can be called from FileMaker. Those endpoints can be called from a third-party service, say DocuSign or Intuit or whatever it may be. And this gives us the ability, without licensing, without having to install plugins, without having to develop any heavy-duty code to deal with these SDKs. This stands in the middle of that. It's in your particular ecosphere, so it's isolated to you, and you can manipulate it and do a lot of integrations. Whether those integrations be with services like AWS, we have sidecars for S3, we have sidecars to work with SQS, we have sidecars to work with a number of third-party vendors. But it's an extraordinarily cheap operational way to go that's extremely reliable and durable because it's a serverless architecture. It's extraordinarily cheap because it only spins up those services that you need. So I would urge you to take a look at the sidecars. I think it's a really interesting technology that we have available, again, by leveraging our cloud formations and our AWS capabilities and leverage that into the FileMaker world. We're able to bring some really interesting things to you that I'm really excited about. And I know that our initial deployments here that we've been going live for about 6 months now are receiving just rave reviews. And I think we've got some big plans for it. So take an opportunity to take a look at that when you get a chance at the expo session for some more details. Lastly is something that I'm super excited about because this is helping both our in-cloud customers that are with us, as well as customers that we have and clients that need something to support a full disaster recovery program. So that's the name, Optiflex Dr. If you are on-prem for whatever reason, and you need to have a backup of your files. There's a lot of ways that you can approach that. One of them would be to, copy those off, use a Dropbox service, use a BoxNet service, use some sort of a syncing methodology. Great. That solves the file problems. But you've got a lot more at risk than just the files. There's a notion, a TTR, so it's time to restore. Well, you still got to have an instance to serve it. You've got to have SSL certificates. You've got to have some computational power. You've got to basically stand up another FileMaker server and put those things into place. We've devised a methodology that you can provide us with backups from FileMaker done in many different ways. Make a call to an endpoint, which is, again, a sidecar. And that endpoint then will take those backup packages and package them up and put them into the Soliant.cloud way of doing things. We put them into snapbacks. We spin up your instance real quick, get a copy of that thing, and we shut that puppy back down. When you need to restore, you simply go to our portal and you say, I need to engage this thing. So, a fire, earthquake, people having to be out of the office for, say, a big disease or something. You can have the ability to fire that box up, and it will restore to that point of what those files are to your last backup you gave us, as well as spin up all the configurations, configure an SSL, configure a DNS, rewrite that out, send you out an email, and you'll be able to restore to that point. In addition to that, those backups that you send to us are, we figure you can do maybe 4 or 5 of them a day. I think we're going to limit it initially to about 4 on-prem to in cloud. However, our Soliant.cloud FileMaker customers, again, if you're using a premium subscription to snapbacks, we leverage that technology. And every single one of those snapshots get replicated over to yet another region, another availability zone, so that if you ever need to restore, you can restore to 15 minutes ago. Incremental cost to have that box there, incremental cost to have the snapbacks available to us. And when we do restore that thing, you simply click that button. And those may happen for a number of reasons. Maybe there's some network connectivity outbound. Maybe something's happening in AWS in a particular region. Maybe there is a disaster. But point being is you get a full disaster recovery, both the files and the configuration of the instance, as well as dynamic change to bring up that server under the same name, DNSs for OAuth settings and for backup schedules, and all that stuff is captured into there. So I think it's a really great thing if you're on-prem and you need some full service delivery backup, you don't have to worry about shuttling your backups to another service. Might as well use them with something that can restore fully. So we've got a lot of stuff we're cooking up. We're going to have individual sessions over at the Expo that are going to allow you to get in a little bit more into the covers, maybe ask some questions. You can talk to Mike Duncan or Adam Russ or myself. We look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for taking a look at Soliant.cloud today. Have a good one.